I am sure sports. You know me there, from coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get your sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me not know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices, add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
All right, good evening. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I am your host, Manningsman, and this very, very special occasion. I'm glad that you're here sharing it with me. And as we normally say when we begin our program, we need to stop and pause and give thanks for life. We are here today. We're above the earth. There are many of us who, for whatever reason, could have passed away, but the good Lord has kept us, and we give thanks for that. We also continue to remember those who have lost loved ones in our nation and our children and all of them. And, any little thing we can do to add value to people's life. Let me be part of you. Change that one young man, that young woman, that neighbor. Just do something good. Find a good deed to do every day and add value to someone's life. All right. We want to also say a big thank you to the sponsors of this video. Our sponsors are Prestige Finance, lending a helping hand when you need it the most. You can call Prestige Finance at 876-884-7390. Prestige Finance is located in Linstead, St. Catherine, Jamaica, and they're offering loans of up to 100,000 Jamaican dollars. There's no processing fee, same-day processing, and only 0 to 4% interest rate. All you have to do is call them and let them know that you heard about them from I Am Sure Sports. All right. Also, a big thank you to Launch Legacy, where they handle risk and seek legacy for all your personal insurance needs in Canada and the USA. Visit Launch Legacy at launchlegacy.com or call or text them at 647-989-0782. It is that place that when you stop working for money, Launch Legacy will get your money to start working for you. I have with me my co-host, Mr. Omar Neo-Sovereign Rogers. You know him. He is a practicing attorney. You know that already, big lawyer over there in New York City. So nice, they name it twice. And I also have, welcome Neo. For those of you who don't know, that's my co-host this evening, Neo-Sovereign Laws and Insight. I have to read this bio, right? He didn't present this to me, so I don't know if I'll be overdoing it, but I'm going to read the bio for my guest.
Definitely overdoing it.
Because I did my research. So his name is Mr. Dennis Chung, JP, Chief Executive Officer at Supreme Ventures Services Limited. And it says Dennis Chung is a chartered accountant by profession, having completed the CPA exam in California, USA in 1990, Masters of Science in Accounting in 1989, and a Bachelor's of Science in 1987. He has worked at the financial controller level in food and financial industry. He is a past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica, having been a council member since 2003. He is a regular economic and financial commentator in the media and has written a weekly newspaper column in the financial paper since 2003. His opinion on economic and financial matters is sought after and has done numerous presentations on economic and financial matters in Jamaica and the Caribbean region. He was a project manager for Air Jamaica divestment project, which resulted in the brand being leased to Caribbean Airlines in 2010. He's currently on the boards of GK Capital. He's the chairman there, Wigton Wind Farm, Jamaica Football Federation, Bertram, and the National Solid Waste Management Authority. Excuse me. All right. He is the past director of Bank of Jamaica, an Ultimate Tire Company, Statin, Jamaica College, the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Commission, National Integrity Action, and the Pension Fund Association. I need to get me some water. This bio is This is the good part for me, though. He is also author of Chartering Jamaica's Economic and Social Development and a second book called Achieving Life Equilibrium. His name is Mr. Dennis Chung, and we're going to talk to him about football this evening. And our other host is here, Mr. Bertram Stan, the man, Spence, Kronke, they call him, the man who has all the money in America. So let's bring on our guests, and we're going to have a nice round table this evening. All right, here we go. Welcome, Mr. Chung. Good to have you on I Am Sure Sports, and welcome, Bertram. So good to have you, sir.
Good night, gentlemen. Good night.
Yeah, man. How you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Good night.
So this is going to be problems, people. Let me just say it off the bat. We have a man from JC, we have one from KC, we have one from Woolmers, and we have one from the 1738, the great Manning High School. All right. So let's see how the conversation will go. I get the feeling like
it's so like the three of you are battling for second place.
Well, what I know is that of all the institutions named, Mannings has the distinction of being the oldest, which really means that we are the original Blues, and any other Blue is just following. All right.
Okay. So it's faded now.
I had absolutely no comment. I don't need to speak. School speak for itself.
You say Kingston College speaks for itself?
Yes, it does.
Is it Kingston College or Kingston College? What is it?
Regardless of what it is, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I don't have many comments about Woolmers either. Everybody know Woolmers, and that's all I need to say.
Do you have any comments on Jamaica College, Mr. Chung? No comments? All right.
What's that?
No, I was asking if you have any comments on Jamaica College because, the Woolmerian has nothing to say. The man from Kingston College has nothing to say. Do you have anything to say as it relates to, Jamaica College?
No, we don't need to talk, our greatness just speaks for itself.
But welcome again to the channel. It's really a pleasure to have you. And I know that you're a very busy person, and the fact that you have taken your time to be with us, we're very grateful for that. And again, really, really want to thank you because I think this will be helpful. I think where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And this conversation tonight, I hope at the end of it, all of us, those here and those listening, will walk away with something that will help to make um, football better in Jamaica. All right. So we are looking forward to this conversation. I've listened to a couple of the interviews that you have done, and I'm very, very impressed with it, with those interviews. And also, again, I know you have not been officially appointed to the post of General Secretary, so we will, ask questions without getting into you being the General Secretary, but ask questions as it relates to your present function with the JFF, which is it the head of the finance committee, or you're part of the board of directors, and you work in the area of finance? Can you kind of clarify
Yeah,
what?
I'm a board director and also chairman of the finance committee of the board.
Okay, and can you explain to us, for those who don't know, how the finance committee works, like what areas it covers, and the personnel that works within the finance committee, and what is the core responsibility of the finance committee within the structure of the Jamaica Football Federation?
Well, the finance committee is really a subcommittee of the board, and we really function as an ordinary finance committee. We oversee the financial statements, ensure that the audit happens, and ensure just a good financial governance of the JFF. So it's really overseeing the operations on behalf of the board. But what I would say is that for a few weeks now, the president has set up a committee that consists of the executive and myself as finance committee chair and the finance department. And we've been taking a deeper look into the affairs of the organization from that perspective, and addressing some administrative matters also. But then at the end of the day, I always have to go back to my finance committee members and get ratification for major things like budgets, for the audited financial statements and that sort of thing. So it's really financial governance that we deal with.
Okay, financial governance, because I was going to ask about that. Is it the finance committee that creates the budget for the federation to work with, or the different departments present the budget to the finance committee, and the finance committee, are you as the director or the leader of that, you okay the budget, or you make changes to the budget, or you do the budget and present it to the different departments? How does it
Yeah, so the latter, the departments, the operations prepares the budget, and it actually comes to us. We look it over, and we will then authorize it and recommend it to the board for approval. So we're really the conduit between the operations and the board, because we're really, as a board member, I'm a board member also, and then I would co-opt people from outside to sit on my finance committee. So, I can mention people like Alan Lewis from Jamaica National, who is on the finance committee, Nikisha Ulett, who is at Hardware and Lumber. So we have high caliber people who sit on that finance committee.
Okay, but they are not employees of the Jamaica Football Federation.
No. They're volunteers.
Okay, so they volunteer. Okay,
Right.
that is awesome. And what are some of the things that you would have said? You would say that since you have come on in this position, that you have put in place in terms of structure, or you have accomplished in terms of a board?
Well, for the first time, about 2 years ago, for the first time in the history of JFF, we were able to do a budget. No budget was really done for the year.
History of the JFF?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. That is the first time that they have seen that a budget has been done prior to the next financial year. We're up to date with our audited financial statements. We have published the 2021. The reason why we haven't put the 2021 on our Facebook page is because it has not been ratified yet by the AGM, which is happening in December. After that, we will post it publicly for everybody to see that. Over the last 2 years, we've made a surplus in the JFF. So we made $15 million in 2020. We made $5 million surplus, small surpluses, because we're really not a profit making.
That's US or Jamaican?
Jamaican, man. If it was US, we wouldn't be here. It would be somewhere else. Yeah. Jamaican, but we're not a profit making institution. So what we try to do is at least break even. I mean, that's what we want. We try to do. Going forward, I think that we're going to be in a much better financial position. We've actually paid off quite a bit of the debt that was coming into this administration.
Can you, sir? Before, I don't want to miss the point. When you came on, do you know what the debt was? And at this point, some approximate figure, how much has been knocked off the debt? 10%, 15%.
Yeah, it was about the deficit was about $150 million. We've managed to chip away about $15 million from it. A small amount, but we continue to know that we're going in the right direction, because trend is important for us. Yeah. We plan to make that situation better. What we're doing is actually improving the governance and the transparency. So, working on things like internal controls, proper procurement procedures, which we're working with FIFA on, and just ensure good governance. Because, what's very important for us is that our public and our fans can see that we're actually using the money in a very transparent manner. Because we have to go to the public in terms of sponsors, in terms of the public asking them to come to matches. And from a personal point of view, my integrity is very, very important to me. So I would rather that I communicate with people externally and let them know what's happening, and that is what the president wants us to do. So, all this initiative, I mean, I know you're talking to me, but, all this initiative that happens, bringing me on board, bringing other people on the finance committee, is really the president. The president has decided that, this is where the way we want to go as a federation, because he has some big plans in place, which you'll hear about. And, we're trying to build back the trust and build back the confidence, because we know that there has been a lot of things recently in the press about the JFF. The truth is that, as I was saying to him today, is not that we are different from many other organizations. Just today, I was able to point to something that was supposed to be confidential, but came out in the press at another company. But what is important is that, and I tell them that we must embrace the criticism and all the things that our people are saying about us out there. Because, as I said to him, if you go home one day and your wife not saying anything, that's when you have a problem.
Yeah.
And therefore, I embrace the fact that people are criticizing us when we're doing anything wrong. And I don't mind criticism, because I know that no one can criticize me for doing the wrong thing or being corrupt, right? And therefore, I will accept criticism, because it only means that I'm going to improve, and this is the stance I think that has been taken by the president and the present board. We've had a lot of internal wranglings, but at the end of the day, we present a united front, as it should be. And the president is really charting his path, in terms of creating his legacy. And our job is to support that, which we're trying to do.
Awesome. Well said. But let me get. It's kind of startling that an organization could be running for so long without a budget. I always tell people, if you don't have a budget, you have to spend it. You spend it until it ended, and you don't know. You just keep on spending. So the necessity of a budget, I'm glad that has been brought to the fore, and that is happening. And again, so you said that there is some improvement, because 15 million has been chipped away from the overall debt.
About 20 million overall between the 2 years. Yeah.
All right. So in 2 years, and that is good. Is all of this debt consolidated in like one place, or is it just different debtors that is?
No man, it's different. It's different debtors, but we're dealing with it.
Is it? That's what I was going to ask you. Is it easier to handle when you have you have different debtors, or would it have been better if you could consolidate all of that and have one?
No, it wouldn't be possible to consolidate it unless you go out there and secure something like a bond or a loan and pay everything off, which is not really what we want to do. I don't see where we're going to have a difficulty based on the plans of getting this addressed. We just have to take time. Everything takes time. It has taken us a while to get here. It has been years of this happening. It has taken us a while, and it's going to take us a little while to deal with it. But we're confident that we're moving in the right direction with it. We're hoping that corporate Jamaica and some other efforts that we have in place will bear fruit. What we know that is the main focus that we're going to bring to Jamaican people is a quality football organization, a quality football infrastructure, a quality team. I remember in 1998, I was in the stadium when Jamaica qualified. That sort of feeling we want to bring back to people. That was an amazing feeling for me, when that final whistle blew. And I was actually in the stadium. So, that is what the objective is. We want to bring back the interest, the glory to football, certainly at the national level and at the other level also on the international and national level.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to invite Bertram, call him Stan Kronke, because I know he has a couple of questions in this era on finance as well that he would like to ask. So go ahead, Stan.
I guess my first question is not really to the financial statement. It's more of to the body that constitute the JFF. So as you know, given your role and given your experience, one of the most important things a company can have is executive management. In fact, if you have competent executive management, even if it's not the best, your market's not the best, you probably can do well as a company. And us in the football community, I've had some challenges, frankly, and this is not to attack you or anyone else, because I'm bringing this up for a reason, with what we deem to be, from afar, the competence of the administration. No matter how good your marketing person is, no matter how good your finance director is, no matter how good your technical director is, if those individuals are not led by or constitute a body, which is deemed to be competent, then it gets challenging to carry out your mandate as you would expect it to be. So the question is, we seem to have made some change where you're coming on board with the finance area, and I'm not sure you don't control other aspects like the marketing. Are the changes to be considered in the organization? Because as far as the way I sit, I'm concerned, and maybe you can answer the question, I may not want to answer the question. You can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result.
Right. And what I'd say is that the president has made it clear, and I've spoken about it already, that there are internal changes that have happened already, right? And we're looking at other things, because I do agree with you. The most competitive thing for a country or an organization is the people who are there, the quality of the personnel, right? And we recognize that, and that is being addressed. We know that there has been a confidence issue, and we're taking every step to try and repair that damage. That for me is very important, to repair that damage. And this is why I think the president has asked me to come on. This is why he has made some changes internally, because he recognizes the same thing that you have just said, Stan. And we're going to give it our best shot. If you look at the people who are there, if you know the people who are there, I mean, we're seeing a much better organization already. Bodies that we deal with are giving us feedback that, hey, things are looking better already. Just in terms of our internal organization and everything, the controls that we have in place. Certainly the discussions that we're having in terms of the marketing opportunities and what's being done. So you're going to hear a lot more about it. Next year also we have on January 1, we're kicking in with this Adidas deal, this deal with Adidas, so there are a lot of positives happening. What I will not do is I will not come to people and say, hey, we were red before, we're green now. No, it takes time. We know that, right? And what we're going to do is do what is necessary to win back the hearts and minds of the people, and to build confidence, to build trust. I'm not asking anyone to just trust what we're doing right now. Watch and see what we do and then build it from there. That is when it is sustainable, and we want to build sustainable trust going forward.
And that's great. Here's a follow-up question to that question, which is, in most organizations, or any organization that sort of does well, people undertake or undergo performance evaluation at a minimum on an annual basis, could be quarterly basis. They get feedback, and then the decision is made. If you're not performing well, you may have to find other vocation. Is that assessment done across the individuals who are not elected? Because obviously it's much more difficult for that to occur with elected.
Repeat that from a stand. Which assessment?
So an assessment of the performance of those who are hired by the JF, not necessarily the elected personnel, like the parish person. They're elected. Right? It's going to be difficult to move them out of their spot. But the assessment of your performance is done periodically, and based on your performance, you determine whether or not you can retain your position or ask to vacate your position. Is that assessment done of personnel in certain key positions across the JFF community?
Well, I couldn't speak to what was happening internally, and I wouldn't want to talk to that. But what I can say to you is that, that is something that definitely I would embrace, something that would have to be put in place. Performance assessments are very, very important. So it is going to be put in place. And I agree with you that we have to set targets, individual targets, and we have to assess persons based on that. So, what I can say to you is that is something that's going to be integral in terms of looking at the internal operations.
Now, I was very pleased when you talked about the financial statement, even though I have a gripe with you, actually. I heard you in the national traditional media, that this is new media, and in different forums mentioning that we have a surplus, 15 million one year, maybe 5 million this year. Your financials were 2-year financials, 2019, 2020, even though it says 2020. Whoever wrote those financials need to make sure they're clear about what year they're reporting on. But secondly, you somehow did mention 2019. You mentioned the positive news. Thirdly, you didn't really talk about your financial position. You talk about the surplus, which is obviously a given year. And my concern about communication was anyone who heard that would have walked away with the view the JFF is doing well financially. But if you look at the balance sheet or in the security section, or the debt.
No, I sort of disagree with you. And our calendar year is our financial year, our fiscal year is a calendar year. So there's no cross between it. What happens in an audit, though, is that an audit presents the current year and the prior year, right? So the audit in 2020, the 2020 audit would have had the 2019 numbers in there also. And the reason why it's done is for comparative purposes for the readers of the financial statements. But for 2020, as I said, there was a 15 million surplus. For 2021, there was a $5 million surplus. And those financial statements would have 2020 on it also for comparative purposes. But it's really 2021 audit. I did also mention that there is a deficit coming forward, and that is what speaks to the balance sheet, because the deficit is shown on your balance sheet. And I mentioned the amount of money that it was, and what we've managed to do with it. So I did speak to the fact that we do have a deficit issue that we're dealing with, but the trend, from a trend point of view, is that over the past 2 years we've managed to make a surplus, which is good, because it means that what you're doing is reducing the deficit that's there. It doesn't mean that you're out of the woods in terms of your going concern qualification on the audited financials, which is there. But what it means is that you're at the bottom and you're moving up, you're not digging further and further down. And that is what I spoke to.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the financials now. I won't spend too much time on that, but I'm telling you, I have misread the financials. It's 2019, 2020. It's a calendar year financials. $136 million debt, accumulated deficit, I should say. And the debt included deferred income,
right,
which means you probably spend most of that cash even though you haven't done the service, right? Because when you have deferred income and your cash position is not good, that means you're spending a lot of that cash which you haven't earned yet. So you got to earn them in future years. So they were qualified opinion too, so they were ugly, basically. But the view I was getting from the JFF was like, we're doing okay. And my view was, we look at these financials, we weren't doing okay. Now, having said that, let's move on, because that's history. But we weren't doing okay.
But what you're looking at, when you look at current year performance, you don't look at the balance sheet. Balance sheet represents balances to that point accumulated over a certain period of time. Your current year performance is the income statement, right? So what you're looking at, you're correct. There's a deficit, as I said, on the balance sheet, right? But if you look at your income statement, that is where you see current year performance. As I've said, there's a deficit, and we know that. But what we're looking at is how can we deal with that every year? I mean, there's no way that we can deal with the whole thing 1 year, because we're not going to make $130 million in 1 year from a surplus point of view, right?
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the point is made. So here's another question. You've mentioned policy and procedures, and I'm good you're enhancing your internal controls. But here's the question for you. There's always going to be concern. It's great to have all the financial statements. But the policy allows certain activities to take place. They may appear to be in conformity with what's agreed by the organization, and the auditors will sign off on that. But in a reasonable perspective, or from a general public perspective, it may not be good. So here's a question for you. Are those policies and procedures adequate, and are they reasonable? And reasonable is an imperative. Because if I take first-class flight to Europe as a board member, that may not be cool with the public, even though it might be allowed, and the auditors will sign off on it. Are those some of the things that are be considered when you assess the adequacy of the policies and procedures?
Well, we have policies that we follow, We have procurement policies, we have per diem policy, and all of that is handed down to us by FIFA, right? And, what's important for us is that we don't breach those policies, right? And that is what we look at in terms of our controls, because, different policies are put in place for different reasons. For example, there's a policy which is also in companies that for some players, if you're traveling in excess of a certain amount of hours, then you're going to travel business class, because it's reasonable to expect that. If you're traveling for under a certain amount of hours, then you can travel economy, right? So those are some of the policies that we haven't put in place. Now, what we have to do as an organization, like any other organization, is that policies are approved by the board, right? Now, FIFA will send policies to us, our board will approve policies. The role of management is not to approve policies. The role of management is to ensure that policies are not flouted. And that is what our controls are around. And that is what we need to do. Now, I mean, I hear people making comments, but the way I'm a person who is fact-based, I'm evidence-based, right? I'm not going to hear that someone says something and then say, Stan is like that. No, I have to have corroborated information. It's only fair. That is a way to deal with people. If you act on things without evidence, you know what they call it? They call it gossip. I'm not a gossiper. I can tell you that. I deal with facts. I deal with evidence. So when someone says to me that chair is blue, I want to say that chair is blue, right? And then I can comment based on that. Now, as long as we have a policy that's board approved, or a budget that's board approved, and we act within the guidelines of the policy and within the guidelines of the budget, then that is what management is there to do. That is a role of management. if the board approves a policy that you think is not the right policy, then that has to be taken up by the board. That has to be taken up by a board meeting, and the only body that is above the board who can take that up is Congress or the AGM. And that's how it works with corporate governance through every institution.
What I want to ask in just follow up in this, because I've read some of your book at the equilibrium of a social and just remember the title of the book, but it ends with equilibrium, Mr. Chung. Forget the full
Achieving
title,
Life's
right?
Equilibrium.
Achieving Life Equilibrium. All right. So some of the concepts in there, very good. And I've spoken to persons at places that you have been on the board, and part of that is systems, which is what I think you are alluding to. And Kronke having think is Nelson Searcy, who writes this book about the 8 systems, and he talks about that when you have good systems, you can have even people are not at the highest level of competence, but because the system is so efficient, the end product is excellent. And so he forces system. Now, how easy it is to create systems in the federation when the person sometimes who sit on the board are their competence level. Speaking like the parish presidents, because to be a parish president is not like you have to have a certain level of qualification or ability or anything. That's not it is an elected position, but once you're elected, you earn a seat at the board level, right? So how do you create a system when you don't control who really sits on the board?
Well, that's why policies are important and governance framework, right? So, I mean, I know a lot about corporate governance because I sat on the PSOJ committee that actually wrote the corporate governance code for public bodies, right? And what you do, there's a thing in corporate governance and for companies called a board profile, right? So you put basic governance policies in place, right? And you look at board competencies, right? Now, if you know that, and just like you run an organization, if you know that you have an organization that you need a legal skill and you don't have it, then what you do? You employ the legal skill, you engage a legal skill, right? So I come back to the whole issue, for example, of the boards I sit on, right? And we at NSOMA, for example, that's one of the things that we look at, right? And we were seen as the most corrupt organization in 2015, right? For the past 2 years of the corporate governance awards, we actually got corporate governance awards, right? We're in the top 5 public sector companies. Why? Because we're able to put governance processes and systems in place. So there's no one man, and that person you spoke about who wrote that book, he's spot on. When you have compensating controls in place, there's no one man that can breach it. And look, for example, at in the United States and the Constitution, right? They have checks and balances. That is what you do. So you do an assessment of what your board competency is. You do an assessment of the objectives you want to achieve. You put the systems in place, right? Now, when you talk about competence, who determines if someone is competent or not? You know what I mean?
Because you're on the board, you don't have to tell us.
I give you an example. I mean, one of the richest men in the world, right? Bill Gates never finished college. I mean, when we were getting people, I mean, for NSWMA, right? And we made the choice that we made, and the public was saying, "Boy, why you choose that person?" Let me tell you something. I have to know the environment I'm working in, right? I couldn't send a PhD down to Riverton, It wouldn't last, right?
Very interesting.
So I have to know, right, what I'm dealing with. That is how you operate boards. So when I hear this thing about
We didn't say education though. We said competence.
No, but you said qualifications, right? And
But
when I
but
hear
that's
this thing,
but qualification.
hold on. When I hear this thing,
Yeah.
when I hear this thing about competence, right? I can tell you, and I tell people all the while, I have an uncle who all he did was went to high school, and he retired at 50, right?
Because he's competent at what he
Right.
does.
So therefore, how do you address the thing of competence? A lot of us, right, in a very discriminatory way, speak about competence because someone don't speak like us, for example. Right? And if someone don't speak like you, that doesn't mean that they're incompetent, right? And this is what the whole idea of a board competency profile is, right? What you do is assess the persons who are there and you pick out the things that they're competent in, right? For someone to get to a certain level, they have to have a certain amount of competence. So I don't look at people that way, right? I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to be fair, right? And I like to be equitable in my assessments, right? But you're right though. What is important, irrespective of who is there, right? Because I have heard about a lot of very qualified persons who run away with millions of dollars, right? So whoever is there, right, and they might be smarter at doing it than the person who don't not as qualified as they are, right? Because they know what to do. But whoever is there, what you have to do is put the controls in place, right? What you have to do is put the systems in place to address that, and that's how corporate governance works.
Can I say something? Can I butt in for a second?
Go on, Neil.
Hey, Mr. Chung, good night. Grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. Your reputation precedes you. So I just wanted to say, I think that, I think we can all agree that your theory on competence, I agree with it completely. But in the context of the JFF, I regret to say that perhaps the issue of competence is one of the, is not really a strong point for the past 2 years or so. And I don't mean, I don't want to come across as being disrespectful, certainly not to you. And I also want to be fair. But I think that even if you had a fair view of things, you would say that the JFF had its challenges, and that as far as competency goes, there have been, the news is replete with issues with respect to the competency of performance within the JFF. And in fact, it is due to that you may be moving from expanding your role, apart from being just a finance committee chairperson, to the to the general secretary. But you and I certainly agree that internal governance and all of those things are very important. My interest in the GFF, I've always been interested, but I was there at the 98 World Cup qualification, wrote my paper on the qualification when I attended UA at the time, did a lot of research, very, very, very interested in Jamaican football, follow it. So I'm an attorney, and so one of the things that I have always been interested in is, the area of corporate law, and I came to look at the GFF's the current bylaws, which I know that there are changes that are taking place, but I having read the old bylaws and the old constitution, I would dare say that it is no secret that the one that was left by Captain Burrell, as great as he was and a force of nature as he was, that even the president said that constitution or that set of bylaws had its issues. And it's my understanding that that FIFA has asked you guys to make changes to the bylaws, as well as you guys have sat down and decided amongst yourself that changes need to be made. Now that so you're in the finance committee, right? And of course you see how the dollars are spent, and you do the accounting. In the position as a general secretary, you'll be even more involved in good governance, right? So one of the things, I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And so one of the, I also have a little channel, not very popular like management channel here, but I did a show about, one of the issues that I saw with respect to the trademark, the Reggae Boys trademark, right? Now, I've heard that you may have discussed this topic before, but the trademark is just one of the issues that I think that the JFF needs to investigate or come to terms with. I believe that if there was better governance, internal governance and rules, that the issue with the bylaws being acquired by an outside firm, the Reggae Boys trademark being acquired by an outside firm, probably wouldn't have taken place. Would you say that as a general secretary, that you would be open to recommendations from the fans, from corporate Jamaica, from people in the diaspora? Would you say that you'd be open to, bringing to the board proposals for changes or additional changes to the bylaws of the JFF?
Neil, excellent points. And let me say upfront, yes. I mean, this is the third YouTube channel that I've been on since Thursday, right? And half. So it means that, and I'm not even in the job, right? But I think to connect with people, and I'm like that. I'm an open book. Everybody knows that. I mean, even at NSOMA, when all the fire was being thrown at us, we face it because we know that we don't do anything wrong. So we face what people have to say because we know that we're doing something to serve the interests of the public. And the best way to serve the public is to understand what the public want. So if I don't think I'm the repository of all information, Neil, and someone did mention to me about the trademark, right? And I will certainly welcome from everywhere, right? I like criticism because criticism is what makes you better. If everyone agreed, then we wouldn't have the wheel today. We'd still be trying to drive a car with 4 squares, right? So I like that. What I ask for, the only thing I always ask for, and it's very important for me, is that we respect each other, right? So there must be ability in how we interact with each other, right? But suggestions and disagreements, I think is good. I don't want anybody around me who's a yes man, right? Because it means that I cannot improve, right? So definitely. Let me say also that, and I saw a comment from someone named Kenworth that says competence is results, and I agree with that, right? And that I think is what competence is. If someone can give me the results, then I don't care how qualified they are or how underqualified they are.
Yeah.
Right? The results is what is the most important thing, right? Because you can't take academics and paper to a bank, right? What you take to a bank is money, right? And I agree with you, Neil, that there has been
Neil.
It's Neil.
Neil.
By the way, Omar.
You're from the Matrix.
Yes, I'm stuck in the Matrix.
I agree with you, though, that based on that definition, so if we say competence is results, I agree with you. We would not have been competent in some areas, right? I agree with you, and those are things that we need to fix. What it means, though, is that will we be successful with everything? No. But what we will do, and one of the things I will do is say, when we are wrong, we will say we are wrong and we'll seek advice to resolve it. And just like I always tell people, I'm an accountant by training. There's no foolproof system. But what you do is manage the most risky things, the most impactful risks. And that's what we'll do. We'll have challenges, right? But at the end of the day, we'll come on programs like this, like Management, because I know, right, from my time at the PSOJ when we did some research, 70% of people listen to social media, right? So when people talk about traditional media, that's 30% of your people. So you're reaching 30% of your people that way. You need to come on programs like this because this is what people listen to.
So, Mr. Chung, can I just intervene just for a second, right?
Yeah, man.
So I mean, I agree, right? And as an attorney, I value words and their effect on people, but I also know that you really have to get the nuts and bolts in place, because as a person says, results is what matters when it comes to competence. And so I just wanted to offer really quickly, because I don't want to take up too much of the show. I know Kronke have many questions, and so does Manins. But so because I'm a results person too, I have actually sat down and drafted a proposed set of bylaws for the JFF, which I intended.
Send it.
And I have tried on numerous occasions.
We have tried, and we have spoken to several persons.
Listen. My email address is drachung@gmail.com.
All right.
Well,
So
I didn't write that, but
hold on. So just Mr. Chung, just text it to me, and then I'll send it to Neil.
Yeah.
All right.
So Mr. Chung, and in those proposed set of bylaws, I have conflicts of interest policies, right, for executive officers. Where people have to disclose potential conflicts of interest. It has to be approved. Now, I know that in the previous set of bylaws, those sort of rules were not really in there, but you guys also had your, there was another document, the incorporation document, that had some conflicts of interest language in it, right? But but as far as I can tell, I don't know how the internal committees have been really, if people have been disclosing any conflicts, or if there is approval by the committee. I mean, this is something that inquiring minds in the public, the fans, want to know, because again, not to belabor it, but the issue with the trademark, the trademark is now owned by an outside company, and potentially it could be owned in perpetuity, right? No, I don't believe in rumors, but an undisclosed source, right, said that this outside company may have acquired this trademark with the tacit understanding that no one on the board or no one at the JFF is going to oppose their acquisition of that asset. And the Reggae Boys asset is a legacy asset. It is something that can make a lot of money. I have compared.
I don't know about that. Certainly, since I've been on the board, I don't know that there has been anything like that, because it would have to come to the board. Look at it this way.
But that's the point I'm making, though. It was a deal that was not disclosed to the board.
Yeah, well, what it means then that it's ultra virus.
No, but there's no. I think what we understood, because I mean, we did a lot of investigation. What we understood is that there was no policy in place that said it had to.
Yeah, well, listen. If it don't come to the board for ratification, it means it's ultra virus, which means that, I mean, I can just like the people who buy the land, I can go to somebody and start selling a piece of land, right? If you want to pay for the land, you pay for the land, right? But the fact of the matter is that, I mean, if something like that don't come to the board, they have legal standing, right?
Well,
the thing, though, Neil, I'll say this, is that the fact that they have owned it, though, and the time that the JFF could have owned it has elapsed, mean that it cannot be undone.
Well, I don't know that it cannot be undone, right? Because depending on how this acquisition came about, right? There if the acquisition came about because there was a secret quid pro quo deal, and the person who acquired it was a party to that deal, and therefore acquired it in a manner where they were guaranteed that there'd be no opposition, right? I mean, it raises issues.
The trademarks would be the property of the company, of the JFF, right? Now, there are rules governing that.
There was a company that owned it in 2006. It was called I think it was Captain Burrell. It was called, what was the name of the company? There was a company that previously owned it. I think, let me see here. The Football Foundation of Jamaica Limited, listed as owner in 2000, right? By 2006, the registration was listed as dead because the Football Foundation of Jamaica did not re-register, right? It lingered there for a very long time, the Reggae Boys trademark. And then in December 2020, an application was made by Business to Sports, the same company that did the deal, the Adidas deal, right? And then they, of course, they applied for ownership of that trademark in Europe, right? No opposition from the JFF. And then they used that ownership in Europe to come to the United States and apply to the US Trademark Office for ownership here in the United States. United States denied their application at first, but then there being no opposition, they were able to correct some errors that they made on the application. So right now, you know, they are the ones who own it. The fact that it was owned by the JFF means that at some point in time, the JFF or the leadership back then realized the value in that trademark, and subsequent administrations, I suppose, allow that to go without registering.
I would love to get that information from you. I sent my email in the private chat, right? And I appreciate that, Neo. You know, and what I would ask though, I mean, people can go and register whatever they want, but can you imagine someone go and register the name Jamaica overseas?
I mean, it's interesting, you know, because there are also reasons why I mean, this is another reason why the Reggae Boys trademark, the fact that it's associated with Jamaica's football team and Jamaica in particular, you know, under the new copyright law in Jamaica, you know, the government stressed in the new legislation that they wanted to support and defend, you know, the Jamaican trademark and brand name. So I mean, the implications are not only implications for the JFF, but you know, implications for Jamaica as a whole.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, and I would love to get that information from you, because if that's something, then you know we really need to bring it up.
Now let me say this though, Mr. Chung. People have said, well, this Adidas deal seemed to have landed in a good time, when the JFF prior to now have always told us, like Kronke read in the report, that they don't have any money. Right? Sometimes they were told that they had money, sometimes they were told that they didn't. I know it's a complicated thing because cash flow doesn't always necessarily mean you have money in any event.
Right.
In any event. All I'm saying is that what has happened, right? It may be that the board will look at the situation and say, well, you know, that happened, but we got the Adidas deal. I mean, I don't know. But if there was some side deal or self-dealing or something like that, is something that probably should not have occurred. It should have been brought to the board. And, you know, I'll just end this by saying that I made a video on it, and I don't have the time to go through everything.
No, man, send the video to me, man. I'll send it to all of the board members.
I try to be fair and balanced in that video without saying or accusing anybody of being.
No, man, send it, and we'll look at, because the board members do watch these things, you know, these videos and everything. So send it. You know, what I can guarantee though is that, you know, I won't be caught up in anything like that. The most important thing to me in life is my integrity. Right?
And I agree with Mr. Chung. And this is why I just will say in closing that I appreciate the fact that you will take a look at the proposed bylaws I sent you, because what I think is that if these rules are followed, not necessarily my rules, I mean, the board is going to vote on whatever is there, but essentially you want a situation where there are rules and processes, systems, like I said, are put into place, that no matter who comes, even if the person is competent or learning to become competent, that if the rule and the system is in place, things will be run in a better way.
Yeah.
And that is the desire that I have, not a desire to tear down or criticize. So I just wanted to say that part.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I really look forward to getting that information from you and sharing it with the board members, you know, so that we can all look at it. Because one of the things, and I appreciate how your comments, because as I said, you never. A man is always innocent until proven guilty. It's just that many times we have it. Too many people have it the other way around. That someone is guilty until proven innocent.
I agree with that.
Can I jump in for a second? I think we spend a lot of time. I think Mr. Dennis, you seem to somehow narrow down, negate, water down the word competence. And we went off on a tangent with the competence word. There's a reason why that word is very important. It's not just about results. Competent people sometimes don't get the positive result looking for. Arsenal played Liverpool yesterday. Liverpool were competent. They just lost. That happens.
Well, it by definition, it suggests they weren't competent.
No, they were competent.
On the day.
Wait, no. Look up the word competent.
I agree with Mr. Chung on that one.
No. Look up the word competent. Here's what I'm concerned about, Mr. Chung. When I hear you talk about the JFF, we can go down a rabbit hole with a board because we're overstating boards and what boards do. Boards are only as good as the information that's provided to them. Let me repeat that. The boards are not in the day-to-day operations. They're something only as good as what management provide to them, or if they have an independent internal audit department that gets them independent information to help inform their views so they can make good decisions. Or they may have advisors who can get that information.
I don't agree with that statement, though, but go ahead.
No, it's a fact. This is not.
No, I don't agree with it.
No, we can argue, but I'm just telling you, it's a fact.
Yeah.
I go down a rabbit hole with this. I'm telling you, it's a fact. Now, here's what I'm.
If we're going to argue about it, it can't be a fact.
No. You can argue about facts, but you're wrong because it's a fact. But here, let me just say this. Here's
I know this is split up in between. You notice we are very cordial.
Here's around here.
Hold on, the Kronke.
Go ahead.
You see how the Mannings man and the Woolmers man are very cordial, but when the case when the JC man go off.
No, this is a debate, Mannings man. You gotta get excited. It's going to be boring, Mannings man. Get excited. Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Kronke.
Here's the thing, Dennis. Here's the words I don't hear. When I hear talk about the president, I hear is a nice person. I don't hear strategic. I don't hear visionary.
Who said he was a nice person?
Every forum I'm listening to, they say he's a nice man, which almost suggests.
Oh well. I haven't said that.
No, I'm not saying you said it, but here's what I'm saying.
Right.
What I'm not hearing, which is when we talk about the board and their competence, this is not to denigrate anyone's acumen, intellect, or anything. But competence doesn't mean I'm not a smart person. I wouldn't be a competent lawyer because I don't have legal background. I'm not a lawyer by trade. So I'd be an incompetent lawyer. Here's what I struggle with. Strategic, visionary, deductive, all these attributes describe, what someone I can bring to the table. If they don't have an expertise in a given discipline, they can help me move my thing forward, either based on their experience or just their natural intellect to allow them to help inform my view. Is what I'm going to. So let's move forward, right? What we struggle with were some of the things that we saw during the pandemic, and we know the pandemic was detrimental to a lot of different situations, or in general, the JFF. Marketing, recruiting, which is your product, or you try to generate revenues, or you try to source revenues, or you try to recruit players, how you engage the public. All those are aspects or things which inform the whole view of, are you competent? Because they're almost innate to what you need to do to be successful. That's why we talk about competence. That's why we struggle. And what you have is, what's very important is, you have a litany of individuals out there with different level of what you want to call competence or intellect or disciplines or whatever you want to call it, who are all looking in at you. And that's the worst you can have is when so many people are interested in the product and want to help and not seeing what's being done to help move the football program forward. Not seeing the vision.
Let me ask you a question though, Stan.
Yes.
What is it that happened, right? And an objective question.
Right.
Can you specifically state what is it that happened that you deemed as incompetent?
I'm gonna give you something tactical. I went to Florida to watch the Reggae Boys in the Gold Cup.
Right.
A friend of mine asked me, she's American, she's like, why are you going? There's nobody in the stands. There was no recruiting done. I thought, I don't live in Florida. I live out of Florida. There was no marketing done. There was no promotions done. There was no trying to get people to come watch the game who have disposable income to come to the games. That's an example, a tactical example, not a strategic example, tactical of what wasn't done. We could go through a litany of things that wasn't done.
Right.
Strategic, for example, the Reggae Boys logo for, I don't want to say Jesus' sake. How could that not be part of the JSF domain? A logo.
But those things are speculative. How do you know it's not a part of the JFF domain?
Well, what we talked about was the fact that it's registered to some private organization, not to the JFF.
Yeah, but what evidence do you have that it's registered to some private organization?
I have the evidence is right here. I can give it to you.
Well, send it. But that doesn't mean.
No, you asked me for examples. I'm giving you an example.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the persons are incompetent because Neo also spoke to a secret deal, which I don't know about, and many people don't know about.
No, well, Mr. Chung,
what I'm saying,
it could be a secret deal, but it was undisclosed because you said the board didn't know about it, right?
Right. So therefore, if the board doesn't know about it, how do you speak to their competence about that? Right, and that's the point I'm making, right? What I know is that we did not get, and I like that definition that competence and results, right? And go back to your Liverpool thing. Liverpool was not competent on the day to win. Simple, right? I can't say, and I will never say, right, that is that word corruption, right? When people say, "Oh, this person's corrupt," yeah, where's the proof?
All right, so let me give you a good. Let me use a simpler one, Mr. Chung, because we don't. I mean, I have this whole I have some because I'm hearing you talk and I'm thinking, why are they taking you out of the area that just made $20 million to put you somewhere else? But we're not going to get there yet because I think that's the area of great competence, and the results have proven so far that in 2 years, you have done audits. You have
But listen, Manning's man, right?
Yeah.
I was the chairman of the finance committee. I'm not the person who did it.
Okay,
right?
So
and therefore, right, I don't see myself as a one-man gunslinger, right?
Understood.
Right, I see myself as a part of a team, right?
So when you're gone, you leave a legacy in terms of the leadership.
Of course, exactly, because one of the conversations I've had with the president is that if I were to take up the GenSec role, we have already identified someone from external who is very competent, right? Who can do it. So I don't see myself, as I said, as the repository of all information. I don't see myself as savior, right? I'm not that type of person, right? I'm a part of a team. I'll play a role, right, like everybody else. And therefore, what we need to fix, right? And we tend to focus a lot on individuals. And maybe that's how Jamaica has been. We deal with charismatic figures, right? But what we need to do is look at the JFF on a whole, the board on a whole, the objectives on a whole, right? And let us say that we have a situation where someone is not doing what they're supposed to do. That person is a part of a system, right? Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I want us to focus on, that going forward. And I can't speak to with any conclusivity what has happened in the past, because I would never say, right, to be fair, I would never say that person did that without evidence, right?
Mr. Chung, can I suggest something else? Do you know that the Reggae Girls trademark is owned by a non-profit corporation that is in Florida, and it is I think that non-profit is a non-profit that was created by some of the parents and supporters of the Reggae Girls,
and they are members of the JFF on the board of that foundation.
The president.
Well, yeah, but if that situation, Neo, again, if you have that information, please send it to me, right? Because I know that I saw a document relating to the agreement that was signed by the JFF,
There you go. So this is a question I'm asking.
But it's not giving it away.
Right. So, but
No, which is fine because right. Let me just say this here. I'm going because I was trying to make a point earlier on what Kronke was saying, but what this is saying though is that at least with the reggae girls,
yeah,
we believe that it's still under the autonomy of the JFF because for some decisions to be made, I think the president and one of the vice president may be sitting on that foundation. With the other organization, with the reggae boys, it is exclusively owned by persons who, as far as we know from our investigation, have no direct affiliation to the Jamaica Football Federation.
Right. So, Mr. Chung, traditionally, Mr. Chung, what happens is that you can have a holding company, right? You can have a trademark, right, or your intellectual property assets, and you form a holding company, which could also be a non-profit company, and that company can hold it because, you know, the JFF is a non-profit itself. It's not really supposed to. It doesn't operate with a for-profit motive, as I understand it.
Right.
I could be wrong, but that's my understanding, having read the bylaws. Nevertheless, when you have a situation where there's a holding company, usually there's an agreement between the parent company assigning the trademark to the holding company, but the parent company will still retain some ownership, right, or purview over the trademark. In the situation with the reggae girl, right now, I mean, the truth is, I can't imagine why the JFF would not still own it, but instead of allowing that non-profit to own it outright, they would own it and then assign their interest in it to the non-profit, so the non-profit can raise money on behalf of the JFF and on behalf of the girls. In this situation, the foundation, the non-profit foundation in Florida, which is you know is not affiliated directly with the JFF. The JFF don't have any ownership in it. I'm just saying that usually when you're conducting something like that.
So Neo, I would love to get that information from you, because in order to ensure, in order to verify that a transfer has been done, then I'd have to see, I'd have to trace that back to a board approval.
In the US, right? In the US, when you assign your rights in a trademark, it is registered on the US Patent Office website. Now that website is public, so anybody in the world, don't have to be an attorney, can go on there and look and see. Which is why I sent that link in the chat. Anybody can go on and look. And so when you ask for proof, that's the proof right there. But I'm just saying that it may be that the jail team some interest and authority over the reggae girls trademark. But I'm just saying, in the ordinary course of business, what usually happens is that the JFF would still own the trademark, but assign the rights to the non-profit organization, so that they have a profit sharing arrangement where whatever money is raised will go to the girls, some of the money will come back to, you know, the JFF. And in any event, I think that perhaps the reggae girls trademark can be so profitable that, in my opinion, it would be a mistake to have it owned by a non-profit entity in Florida and not a profit-making entity, which would just be another holding company. As for the reggae boys trademark, it is possible, in my video, as I said, that Business to Sports is a holding company. But again, there is no assignment. There is no, you know, the thing went dead in 2006. So, you know, I mean, you would have more information or could obtain some more information. I can't say with absolute certainty what is happening, but I'm just saying to you that these are things that would be on your, is going to be on your table the first day when you assume the office.
If
right. So I'm just saying, these things can be looked on, because as I said before, there is the Americans. I look at where we were in 1998 and where they were, and I think to myself that we, you know, they have a lot more money, right? But I think that we definitely could be a lot more competitive than we are. And like you, I think hearing you speak.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Neo, I agree with you. I mean, I think we could be, and recall that we have a new coach, right? And he's very competent, right? He took Iceland to World Cup in
That word
2018.
competent is coming over.
Yeah, well, he had results. He got results, right?
I'm not confused about this guy. Please don't
He took them to Euro 17, right?
Yes.
So that's a part of the transformation that needs to happen, right? I mean, I was very impressed with how I saw him handle the Argentina match, right? And I was sitting. I mean, a lot of people were looking at what was happening on the field. I was seeing what was happening on the sideline, right? And I was
right
very
there
impressed with that.
Behind you.
Oh, you were there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, I guess
Yeah,
he does have a resume. He does have a resume that informs his competence. And also, no, I'm actually serious about it. And also, the word competence means the ability to do something. Doesn't mean you're just going to achieve it. I'm going to make sure we're clear to the audience and look up the definition of competence, because we're confusing our audience and say competence means result. They're not one and the same. Being adequate, being acceptable, doesn't mean you're exceptional or outstanding. Let me show you the definition clear. Here's my point, Mr. Dennis, which is we want to move forward. We all want the JFF to be successful. Well, we want the football to be successful. I don't sometimes differentiate JFF from the people who run the JFF. We want transparency, and we also want healthy skepticism from our fans. And it's the JFF job, I believe, to make sure those fans who are their primary supporters are provided transparent information that basically talks about how you're doing, because you want the fan support. The sponsors want the fans support.
I think that's what I said that we're gonna do. You know,
Okay.
And that's the primary thing that we're gonna do. You know, we're as far as I'm concerned, I think transparency is very, very important. You know, people might not like it. You know, for me, for example, I mean, if someone walks up to me on the street and asks me for my phone number, I'm going to give it to them, right? It don't matter to me. I mean, if I don't want to talk to them and they call me, I'm going to tell them I don't want to talk to them. That's how I am, right? But I give it to them, right? Because I believe that. What's that?
Better than I am. Stranger my number.
Yeah, but that's who I am, right? And I believe in transparency. I mean, I think it's very important, you know. I believe in accountability also, right? And I am not going to be one who is going to sit in a situation and compromise my integrity. I'm not going to do that, right? I mean, at my age, I don't have time to recover, right? So I'm not going to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
So you talked about budgets and all that. Are there plans to reach out, access the global fan base of Jamaica? Not as just Jamaican, you know, on a global basis. You have a lot of people who are Jamaican or Jamaican lineage, but also Jamaica may be the second country or second team. What are we doing to reach that community of people? A lot of them probably have more disposable income than we have in Jamaica. Let's be frank about that, to help with the football program.
Yeah, well, that is what, as I said, those plans are in place. But the fact that I'm on a program like this, I mean, that speaks volumes, right? That's what I'm doing.
That is true, but they have normally hides from these programs, so that's true.
Yeah, we're reaching out. We're reaching out to people, right? Because I think that is important, right?
Yes.
No. As I said, you don't ride. I'm a cyclist, and you don't ride 100 miles by starting at 100 miles, right? You start with a mile, and what we do is we start with repairing the relationship, right? Repairing with the relationship with the people who are closest to us. This is why we do things like this, right? This is just a part of the process. Of course, you know, it's a long process. Sorry. It's a long process, but it's a part of the process. I agree with you. We have to reach out to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me just say this, because the truth is, I think, like I said, this move is a big move. I mean, and let me be honest, whether we like it or not, let me be fair. Mr. Speed makes himself available
Yes.
most times. A lot of times, a lot of us don't agree with what he says, but I tell you, he's not afraid to speak. So we must commend him on that, right? I have also been able to speak with Mr. Wind and Mr. Ricketts. So yes, right. However, I like what is happening, and I think we are enthused about what is happening. All right, now. In terms of the competence thing, and I want to move away from that a little bit. Let me say this: like um, throughout the campaign that was completed, we believe from observation, and as a leader of people myself, I always, when I have team meetings, I never say to them, "This is what went wrong." We always start the meeting with, "How can we do it better?" In retrospect, I believe that there were things that could have been done differently that could have created different results.
You mean for the World Cup campaign?
The World Cup campaign, even logistics in terms of when you look at how we had to send two different teams. All of the teams were in the pandemic, and somehow the other teams in that final stage seem to have had better logistic plans and travel plans than us, and that affected us.
Boy,
Nonetheless, it is a pass.
yeah, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, right? A lot of people speak about that, right? What I can say is that the JFF administration
Yeah.
never got involved with anything in terms of the selection of teams, who was selected for travel, and none of that. The only thing that we did was to provide the funding, right? And what you want, right?
No. Okay.
So
I
that
don't
that
want to mix it up, because I'm not talking about player selection. I would not blame them. I'm talking about, for example, the first game that we played, the first set of games, and then I'll go move on. The first set of game that we played, you remember we played a game in Mexico, so we had
yeah,
to send. So one team was in Jamaica, one team was in Mexico. Then the team in Mexico, well, some came back, some went to Costa Rica. So
yeah,
basically, for those first three games, there were several different combinations.
right,
But during that same time, the other three teams that we played, the Panama team remained the same, the Mexico team remained the same for their other two games,
right.
Costa Rica team remained the same. We were the only team that really used three different combinations. And I'm saying that it is stuff like that when we look and say,
Yeah, but that's a coaching decision.
well, some of it had to do with Mexico being a red. I think there was some red flagging and who could travel there.
Yeah.
Because
But if someone doesn't, if someone doesn't have a visa for somewhere, there's nothing you can do about it.
no, man. What happened is that the whole. All I'm saying is that maybe it is a coach's decision. I
Right.
don't want to get it, because I don't want to blame anyone. I'm not here to, cast blame. I'm just looking at some of those things, and I'm saying that at the end of the day, and you notice everything rise and fall on leadership. At the end of the day, that's just how leadership is. No matter what happens.
I agree with you, but I agree with you. There are a lot of things that could have been done differently, right?
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Can
Right?
I give a specific example, Mr. Chung? Dennis,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it Dennis, like Kronke
man.
does. But here is a specific example. Now, this is something that I argue with Mr. Speed about all the time, right? So you have Mr. Speed is on the technical, what is it called, management? The technical committee.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And also, one of the things is that he also runs a club. Now listen, I may have my differences with Mr. Speed, but Mr. Speed has done more for Jamaican football than I have, because he's there on the ground doing things, and he has been doing it for many years. So I'm going to give him respect for that. But I always say to him that sometimes it's not what actually happened, it's just the appearance of a conflict. So because he's also the manager or owner of a team, he's on the technical committee, and there's an allegation or the appearance sometimes that, he has some influence on who the coach chooses for the team. Now, one of the reasons why that appearance continues is because even though he declares that he has no role in doing that, when you look at his purview, he also he not only recommends players to the coach, but he's the head of committee who also has a decision on whether or not a coach is hired or fired. Right. So when you have that sort of
well, let me say this, right? He does not. In fact, even with the last match, he did not know who was on the team. Right.
And I grant you that, all I'm saying is
he doesn't have any influence whatsoever.
Right. But I'm just saying
that,
to you,
right?
For
The other thing I would say, and I mean, I have a lot of respect for Rudolph, working with him in terms of his contributions, right? Because as you rightly say, I mean, he does a lot for football, right? And there are a lot of people criticizing that don't do anything, right?
Exactly.
But he does a lot for football, right? The other thing you had mentioned in terms of what was the other thing you mentioned?
I was saying that because he not only has a chance to select the group of players from which the coach decides who he's going to pick, meaning there's a list of players which is recommended.
No, he doesn't know anything like that.
All right.
Yeah.
I grant you that, but he also is in the position where he makes recommendations on the hiring and firing of coaches. Is that true?
All right. So what he does is he makes the recommendations to the board.
Right.
The board then, right? So he's one of 14, right? And he would make the recommendations to the board. The board then, and he makes a recommendation to his committee first. So remember, he's one person of a committee that includes persons drafted from outside, right? The committee then makes a recommendation to the board. And I can tell you this, I've seen many occasions where his committee members disagree with him, right? So if he's doing something like that, then you'd have to cast aspersions on all of the committee members. Right.
And as I said in the beginning, all I'm saying is because it is just the appearance, I don't know for certainty what he does or does not do. All I'm saying is that there are ways, right? There are ways I believe that you can have a situation where the technical committee or somebody in Mr. Speed's position who is very influential. I know he's one man on the committee, but because of his outside influence or appearance of influence, it just leaves it open to that criticism. I
understand that. I understand that, and that is why he's always very careful. So whenever I ask him something, he will say to me, "Boy, Dennis, I don't know." Right? We sit at the committee, we make a recommendation, and that's it. Now,
but Dennis, that's not good enough.
The other thing I would say though is that I've seen this situation. I mean, and when I sat and we're going through the corporate governance code, one of the things we recognize is that Jamaica is a small country, right? And a lot of people who say, and I've seen it not just in football, who say, "Boy, this thing is not happening." You said to them, "Will you come and do it?" Guess what the answer is? No. Right? So many times we don't have a lot of people to choose from, right? And that's one of the challenges that Jamaica has, because a lot of people are good armchair critics,
Right. But
are you saying I should get off my armchair?
No. Because we think about Jamaica as 144 times 44. That's the first thing. That's how we think about Jamaica. Very narrow thinking. Secondly, here's a question. Do you have a conflicts register, which shows how you mitigate all these conflicts may arise, or key conflicts, how they mitigate it? Because what Neo is saying is what obviously the general public. There seem to be overt conflicts inherent in the construct of how you operate. The question is, do you have something, when you talk about policies and procedures, like a conflicts register, which says, here are my key conflicts, Here who owns those conflicts, and here's how they mitigate those conflicts.
And the board can vote to approve something or disapprove it.
We do have ethics rules, and we have a governance committee and this governance committee was put in place by this president. It wasn't there before, right?
Yeah.
And what I'll say to you guys is that it is a work in progress.
Okay.
Right. So when you say to me, Neo, that you are sending me those bylaws, sure, that is one of the things that we need to work on, because we're not perfect.
You know what I spoke to Mr.
We're constantly developing.
Mr. Speed, I suggested to him at one point, I believe, that you could always, while you're on the committee, the technical committee, maybe have somebody else, run your club. And Mr. Speed said that he kind of stepped back somewhat from the operations of the club, and he was in some other position. So he himself implicitly recognizes that it can, the position can start.
Just the perception, because it isn't.
Right.
Let me say this. All right. So people always say that I stand in defense of Mr. Speed because money is money and Mr. Speed a friend and the president a friend and stuff, and you're not objective. And then I see people saying that, but you criticize because at the end of the day, we have to be careful of what persons perceive. I always tell people this: your character is different from your reputation. Your character is who you are when no one else is watching. It's who you are on the inside. People can really damage your character, but your reputation can come under question, right? If I use this example and they call me the AC repairman. If you see me as a minister of religion coming out of a house at 2 a.m. in the morning with my shirt over my shoulder, right? And I'm pulling up my zipper, you are going to assume that I was doing something with a single woman in the house. I was fixing the AC. That's all I was doing. It doesn't say you're right.
Analogy. Wow.
Watch this. Your belief is wrong, but that alone can affect my reputation. It doesn't affect my character, because perception is actually reality in a lot of things. And I think I am confident, based on what I know of Mr. Speed, that he doesn't interfere. And he and I have this discussion often. But people are going to believe it as long as I did a show the other day and people took me and I said, listen, if the matter is not the conflict of interest, the matter is what are the principles that govern how these things are done. One, in other words, everybody has some interest in the football. So if I gave up my club, it doesn't mean that if I operate in the position, I wouldn't act on behalf of my club still. So what needs to happen is that guidelines need to be put in place to ensure that even if I operate a club, the decisions that I make, there are policies that govern them. Right. And if those policies are not adhered to, then I am removed from the position. They must be enforced. Why? You're muted, Mr. Chung. You're muted. You're muted.
We understand everything he's saying.
Yeah, so you're totally correct. And that comes back to what I said about the fact that once you have policies and rules in place, what we need to do is ensure that they're followed. Now, if they're inadequate, then we can make an argument to change it. But all we can do is ensure that people follow the policies and the rules that are in place.
Yeah.
Right? If someone doesn't break the policies and rules, then you can't do anything about that. Right?
Mr. Chung, but because this thing no, there's a post for General Secretary that you much has been said, it has not been filled by you. But if you take on the job, you would have probably looked at some sort of job description. What are the roles and functions of a general secretary? Because we need to know, what are we going to measure Mr. Chung on when he's in this position? What is the job description?
The role of the GenSec is really to handle the whole thing of the administration, the administrative duties of the JFF. I mean, we've been speaking about a lot of them. Ensure that the policies and the procedures are in place. Ensure that the right committees are in place to meet the objectives of the organization, right? So I think the GenSec is someone who should assist the organization in setting, and the board in setting the policies, in setting the objectives that we want to achieve. And we need to align those objectives with what our biggest stakeholder, the public, want. Because the reason why we're doing this, right? Remember, football is entertainment. And why we're doing this is to entertain the people who we serve, who is the public. So what are the objectives? How do we define and measure success, right? That is, those are the things that I think that a GenSec needs to do to ensure that the administration, right, is aligned with the objectives, the technical objectives and all that, and what we want to achieve. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is quality football. That's really what all of this is about, to ensure that we have quality football and national pride, right? So how do we align the objectives of the organization with that? That's what the GenSec is essentially needs to do, and ensure that we follow the right policies and procedures in getting there, right? Ensure that the reputation of the organization is protected. Ensure that, we develop and develop the players along with it, because this is more than just also meeting an objective of qualifying. But I see it as when you talk about sports is developing people. There's a bigger objective for sports, right? And that's what I see what the role is. You can break it down further if you want into specific tasks and all of that. But at the end of the day, that's what we want to achieve.
Yeah, let me just clarify something. People, we are not saying that people must operate in conflict of interest.
No.
But asking a person to step away from one task does not mean they don't operate in the same interest that is there. So you have to have the policies. So there is a difference, right? So if you say to me, listen, you run a club, right? So step away from the club and you can serve in this capacity. That does not hinder me from function in a way in the best interest of the club. What must govern that is the policies in the organization. That is,
management, can I just say something, which is...
So please, I don't want you to think like we are saying that it is okay to have conflicts of interest. And that's not the point we're making. Go ahead, Kronke.
So I'm going to say this. People should understand that conflicts are inherent in any business organization.
Here you go.
It's by nature of how you work and operate. What you guys have been saying is right, which is you gotta have policies and procedures and guidelines and a way to check to make sure they're being adhered to mitigate risk in those conflicts. So what some people have was asked about, they have a kind of conflicts register, identify all the key conflicts. You have someone who owns each conflict, and you have measures that you undertake to manage those conflicts to make sure things are operating appropriately, right? So people in the audience shouldn't think that conflicts are not inherent. They are. If you have a business and you start working that business in a corporation, that's almost an inherent conflict right there. But how do you make sure how you manage your son or your daughter, whoever that family member is, it's managed such a way in which you give everyone a fair opportunity to be successful, right? It's not a private business like a public corporation. So conflicts are inherent. We're not arguing that. What we're saying then is in a lot of instances is that we don't get this intelligence and information to review about how these things work. The conflict in front of our faces, and that's all we see. We have no idea about things operationalized and how they work behind the scenes. And therefore, you walk away with the view that those conflicts preclude us from being objective and independent about how we make decisions about certain things. That's all we're saying.
And that is why, and I agree with you, and that is why it is important for us to have discussions like these.
Yes.
Right? So that there can be transparency. That is how you deal with conflict, with transparency. Right. So people, I know some people will not be convinced, and some people won't like me, but we will continue to have conversations, and I'll come back here, and we'll talk again, and we'll continue talking, and there will be issues, and we'll resolve the issues, and and people say things, and that's just how the world runs. I've become used to it.
If you step into if you are to take up the post, Mr. Chung, what are like the key things? Like I said, here are the three things that I believe need to be fix based on my observation. Maybe there's more to it because I hope within like all these I didn't know Neo just present all of this information. What am I getting into? I hope that is not the,
No,
the
no, 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 no. I'm someone who, you know, if there's a reasonable thing that I can do to assist the country, I'm going to do it. That's how I live my life, right?
okay.
No, what would I do? I mean, looking at the organization, you know, I think the path that we've been set on over the past few weeks by the president is the right path. You know, we're looking at strengthening the internal inefficiencies. We're looking at
But
solving the
Mr.
issue.
Chung, you what I just said. You're strengthening the inner
Right,
inefficiency. So
right.
you see why sometimes we on the outside say it
Yeah, man.
is
No, no, I accept that, you
right.
know. I'm saying
Okay,
I
okay,
accept that. And that's
okay.
why I said that the next point
Yeah,
I was going to is by doing that, we have to strengthen the relationship with the fans, right? The relationship with the public.
yeah,
Because and there must be substance to it. And this is why I speak it's strengthening internal first. Because it don't make no sense you strengthen the relationship and the internal have a problem. So let's strengthen the core, right? And then you deal with the relationships. But and they're not mutually exclusive. They can be dealt with at the same time, right? The other thing is that we need to so those are internal things, right? The other thing is that we need to look at the objectives. What are the objectives that we want to achieve? Do we have the right strategic objectives in place?
yeah,
Right? What is it that the public who are interacting with our stakeholders want? And set the objectives based on that. After we've done that, right, then it's really a matter of guiding the process to get there. What does that entail? Does that entail getting a coach? You know, that's a part of the process. Does that entail getting correct policies and procedures in place? That's it. Strengthening governance, speaking to people like Neo and saying, hey, send me the information that you have, right? It's a dynamic thing. There's no end game to it, right? It is a dynamic thing. It's continuing. And after I leave from this organization or from the face of the earth, right? It will continue. So we have to put things in place to ensure that continuity, right? And that is what I think I want the focus to be. So the thing is I mean, I have some knowledge of what's happening, but there's always some more to learn,
yeah.
right? And
What about the marketing? The two things I want to ask you
oh,
about.
the marketing, that's key. I agree
Like
with you.
there's no marketing well, let me not say it. As far as we know, there was one who left and there was
Right.
somebody who was named to come on. That never happened. And since that we haven't heard anything. That's one thing. And the other thing I want to ask, because both Kronke and Neon, many people are on this now. I think we have a greater percentage of people from the diaspora on the
Right.
platform right now. Um, are there any plans, one, to deal with the marketing thing immediately, appointing someone in that place, especially with the Adidas deal coming on? Number one. And number two, what are the plans to engage the diaspora at a greater level and tap into the great human capital? Um,
All right. So
yeah,
so let me say, Manning's man, both of those are connected, right? I was having the same conversation about the marketing was something that we're talking with the president about today. There was a committee dealing with it today and looking at things that need to be done, including getting the right personnel in place to address it.
yeah.
So as we speak, a marketing plan and program is being developed,
Okay.
right, going forward. And it's starting with the Reggae Girls matches in November on the 10th and the 13th, right?
That's
So
awesome.
that is in place, right? In terms of engaging the diaspora, what we have to do is go out and speak with people. As I said, this is my third YouTube interview since Thursday, right? The president has said, and you notice Speed is speaking a lot also. He has said to myself and Speed, go out and talk to people. Let them know what we're doing, right? We also need to make connections overseas. So one of the persons that has been talking to me very much about how he can help is Hugh Menzies. You know Hugh Menzies?
Yes, he was
Right.
a yeah man. He coached.
Right. Hugh is my cousin,
Okay.
right? So Hugh said to me, boy, Dennis, you know, let me know how I can help with certain things. And we're already discussing that, right?
That's very good that he's going to engage you, because we know that they were severed with the female.
Right,
So that is
right. In
very
fact, he just sent me a WhatsApp that I don't respond to yet because I'm not ready to respond to that one. But that thing, I mean, I also when the whole thing came out about the possibility of me going to GenSec, I received a call from the head of Team Jamaica Bickle, Team Bickle.
right. They are involved with the pen relays.
Exactly. And they say, listen, man, whatever assistance we can get. So we're already engaging them, right? And we'll continue to do this, right? As I said, this is a continuing process, right? And we're going to continue engaging. And we're going to get cussing, and we're going to get praise, and we take all of them as it come, and we filter all of them and do what is in the best interest of the organization and the objectives. But we're continuing to do that, so we're already making those strides.
Yeah, that is awesome, because they have persons like Neo who does, I mean, and he has volunteered his time to work as an attorney to prepare whatever documents are needed and policies. And I know initially one of the things he said is that, listen, you don't have to use it, but maybe there's one thing from it that could be taken, and that's fine. Same thing with Kyle Wallace at Reggae Boy Supporters Club. You have Michael Gardner. So you have persons out there in the diaspora who I know that they listen. There's geographical Jamaica. There's a geographical space, and that is important. The borders of Jamaica, but existing outside of the borders of Jamaica are a lot of Jamaicans that I think if our football were to tap into it, I'll tell people this. I believe that we can generate more fans in stadiums outside of Jamaica at a Reggae Boys game than in Jamaica.
Yeah, because you have a lot more people outside of Jamaica.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that is something that I'd love to see you take on, because we keep missing out.
Well, it's not me. It's the federation, the organization.
We. Let me just say, all of us.
That's already in play. That's already in play. That's already in play.
Awesome. All right, Kronke.
Like we talked about before, the management, about deductive, strategic, visionary. That's why you hear me use those words, because they're an imperative for you to be. You can be successful now, but what's the level of success you're going to achieve if you don't have those things that you can use to really, really maximize the program, right? I don't see that. I see tactical things being done. I don't see the strategy at the level I think is required to really have to put a sustainable program in place and to enable sustainable success versus a one-off success like happened in '98.
Well, I think Mr. Chung is saying that I hear him say they're working at the marketing thing. What we'd love to see is like, I know maybe at some, because I've seen the National Solid Waste Management. I can only go by what I have seen from you before.
Yeah, but Dennis, let me say it, Dennis. In the success you've had before, I'm sure you built your team. You identify, I'm going to go to the competence again. You identify the talent that you need, and you move out talent, which going to help you achieve success. And you put in place people at each role, at each level, in each position to enable organization successful. Because all you need is one weak link to break down the whole chain.
Yeah, no, but that's what I've said. I've said that the changes are being made to the person and everything.
Okay.
You know what we'd love to see. I know that there is, we have November next year, but we'd love to see. I don't know if this is because to engage the fan at what is, and you mentioned it earlier, what is the strategic plan for year one? And that may come after, because there was never originally, I know that at the election there was not any manifesto, right? So what are the measurable? You talk about objective, you talk about the internal, and you talk about the objectives. What do we want to achieve? Is there any part of that the fan can look at the GFF website? Hopefully they get that going, Mr. GenSec, if you take the job, so we can go on the GFF website and go to strategic plan.
It's funny you say that, Manningsman, because we're actually looking at some proposals to build a website, right?
Awesome.
So actually have those things in place. And you're right. I mean, I think that once that is in place, then it would be it would be worthwhile to put on it our strategic objectives,
Yes.
what our values are, and everything, and all of that will be in place. But as I say, these things take time, eh?
Yeah.
They take time, right? And I was watching something the other day, and someone said that when something grows up rather than jumps up, it's more sustainable. So we don't want to jump up, we want to grow up, set the base
Now, put up one,
and grow. Right? That's what we want to do.
Dennis, I'll just say, because it might be the last chance I have to make a comment, and I posted it in the chat as well. And I think that the three most important things in terms of good governance that I think would go a far way in really indicating change to people. And I know based on the actions that the administration is making, it seems that you guys kind of have a similar, notion. The first one is increasing the number of votes on the, in the Congress, right? So that the JFF can be thought of as being more of a democratic type of institution, have more stakeholders involved, not only the parish associations and the clubs or the other football related, like ISA, GISA, Referees Association. I mean, all those things, of course, are necessary, but also opening up membership to other organizations and other grassroots type of organizations, that would be involved in football, because, you have all of these stakeholders, and you broaden the thing, gives people more confidence, and the allegations of, I'm here to say it, corruption or conflicts of interest will be lessened because there'll be more people involved, and so the chance or accusation that is a friend thing might be lessened in that case. The other thing I thought that really would be important is the issue of term limits. In Jamaica, we have sometimes, we have a Don mentality, and I'm not accusing any president of that, although, there are people out there who will make that accusation. But if you have a term limit, you know that you have a president who can be there for 2 or 3 terms. I mean, maybe 3 terms is understandable, considering that, it's a 4-year thing every cycle, right? So term limits, increasing the number of votes. And I think the last one, what else did I say? Right. And of course, the last one is just, the current bylaws. I don't want to say the current, because I don't know what the current bylaws are, because you guys had it posted, but then you took down the website and all of the information associated with it. But in any event, you said that you're currently in the process of creating a website, and you guys have made your financials available. So, I'm going to give respect for that. But, essentially, really implementing, as Kronke, as Stan said, a conflicts register, just a process by which, what disclosure and having an internal committee who can approve it. I mean, it does seem to me that this would be something that you may have come across being on so many different boards. And I know it's easy to talk about it in, as a ideal, I certainly didn't serve on as many boards as you have, but I know that's something that, you would agree would be very important.
No, I definitely agree. And I think that those are things that must be looked at.
Yeah.
What I would say is that, as I always say, these things take a little time, though.
Right. I agree.
Something happens overnight.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll say this, which is, I think Neo raised a great point. What Neo is, I'm going to paraphrase what you're saying, but in my own words, which is, you can't always continue with the status quo. You need new blood, new leadership, new ideas. Doesn't mean you get rid of all the old guards, but you want to retain institutional knowledge, but you have to keep reinventing yourself. And you can't just reinvent yourself with the old guards continuously. There are corporations out there who are very successful people, and they move some of those people out to make way for new people coming up, people who they value their intellect, they value their competence. I'm always use that word tonight. They value their know-how, but even though they're much younger, because they bring in new ideas, new way of thinking, They become more diverse, but they're trying to make sure that's having the same people year after year, same mindset, same things, doesn't allow you to move forward. Doesn't mean you can't be successful, but you're better off bringing new minds, creating new interests in your organization. And it's very frustrating to see the same people after a year and us getting the same results. So we beseech you, use that word, to work internally to help make some of these changes. And I'm very, look, I give kudos and I applaud and I'm very supportive of organizations that are trying to change, trying to be transparent, trying to bring people in. So here's an idea. And my ideas normally get paid for. I'm going to give an idea, which is, you know what Amazon does? They're always trying to get perspective of their customers. Not because they've invited them sometime. They're trying to get ideas. They're trying to improve. They're trying to get suggestions. And they're great at it. You know why? But they get it from everybody who buy their product.
Yeah, man. So what I'll say to you, Stan, what Travis Pessoa just said, it's like we have this conversation about politicians also. But guess what? These people are elected and people vote for them again and again and again.
Let's not talk about Jamaican politics, please.
No, it's not just Jamaica alone. I see some people in the U.S. Senate who has been there, look like 100 years.
And look where we are. Look where we are on the precipice of
the question has been asked in the U.S. around Norway, as you know, elect 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds, and you can say which model is better. Now they're both extremes. Someplace in the middle.
Yeah, which one is the richest country in the world still, though?
Great point you're raising.
Right? But the point is this, Stan, right? That everyone who is at the JFF is elected.
Yes, but by themselves.
Yeah.
No. They're elected by their parishes.
Dennis, we all agree that a previous administration... wait. A previous administration set this up in such a way where, you know what? The status quo is maintained year after year. You can have an elective process, but it's not an open process.
But let me say, though, to be fair to this present administration, in terms of changes being made, this administration really, increasing
has made more changes.
Yeah. That is just the truth. I mean, we haven't seen the full effect of them.
It hasn't manifested fully yet.
Right. But the truth is, when you compare changes made for the expansion or the inclusiveness of the federation or the football, this federation, I mean, has done a whole lot more than the previous.
Let me say this.
It must be commended. It must be commended. Maybe we can say that they're going at snail's space, but there are changes being made.
We're not going to live forever now.
Remember the story about the tortoise and the hare?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just chime in and say this. Dennis, management Stan. So again, Mr. Again, Dennis. I don't want to be in self-promotion, but if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see that I did a little bit of investigative journalism, which my research showed that there were FIFA officials who gave JFF a choice to change the number of votes and make their entity more democratic, or perhaps in the short future have FIFA make those changes for them, right? I did this. If you look again, I'll send you the link, right? The FIFA official visited Jamaica on numerous occasions. The FIFA official provided JFF with a pro forma set of bylaws with notes included, including discussions with JFF members, plans for the board to vote on it. And so while I do applaud the current board and the current president and all of you guys for making changes, I will also say that to some extent, some of you guys had to be dragged along the way into those changes. I just hope, that with the transparency that you are promising, and your track record, that those changes will be hastened and realized.
Yeah. And let me just say this, Mr. Chung, because it's 2 hours and I want to release you to get some rest because I know you have a long day tomorrow ahead of you. But what do you what because a lot of this is about what the JFF should do, what the general, if you get the generals, what you must do, what you must do. I want you to challenge the fans as well, because a lot of us need to do some things differently. It's not just a JFF, I believe, needs to change. I think our narrative as the fan base needs to change. I think we have been so clouded with failure. Let me say it, under 20 fail, under 17 fail, national team fail. That listen, we can't even see the good news. We can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because we feel like we have been pushed all the way back down to the tunnel. So I want you
Before
now
you answer, let me just say this.
to challenge us.
Here's an analogy that's a real good analogy. AFTV. You familiar with AFTV, Dennis?
Tell me what
Arsenal fan TV. They're reviewed to be extremely negative for the last 5-6 years. And someone said today in national media and talk sports how positive they are. You know why they're positive? Because we're being successful. You know why they were being negative? Because we were not doing well. What management is alluding to, which is the fans are negative when you're not successful. And how can they be positive about an unsuccessful regime? It's the nature of the
which means that you're effectively saying that people don't say things objectively. They say things based on their perception. Because if they're doing the same thing and it's successful, and the same thing and it's negative.
No. They're not doing the same. No, they changed though. They changed hope, they changed structure, they changed investment. No, they changed. The point I'm trying to make is, I'm not telling you something you don't know. Right? Which is, if you had a good program in place, if we see positivity, even if the outcome was not successful, we see direction of travel. We see what you're trying to do. We see strategy. We see down the road it could be successful if implemented and executed appropriately. If you don't, we're gonna do what we need to do, which is voice our concern and this.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I think people should voice their concerns, and irrespective of what happens, everybody's gonna have a different opinion.
That's true,
right? Because I mean, I see. I mean, you know, you got the football matches and people coaching from in the stands.
Yes, we are coaching.
Right?
We are coaching.
You have that, right? The only thing I ask for Manning's man, right? The only thing I ask people,
the fans. This is your challenge to the fans. And yes,
the only thing I ask, because I don't think that I can get into a man's minds and change his perception, because everyone has their perception based on their own emotions and their own personal feelings, right? The only thing you must do is be respectful about it, right? And don't accuse people of things that you don't know about, right? But just be respectful about it. Criticize and be respectful about your criticism, right? Because at the end of the day, you know.
Hey, listen, that is not, I will say this, and then just finish. That is not just, I wish everybody in Jamaica would get this message. Because this needs to just happen right across our society. Like
because at the end of the day, you know, when we all go underground, you know, it's all of us going the same way.
So I think people are influenced by the society at large. Jamaica Corruption Index is not the best. We know what that entails. And people associate that with anybody and anyone in that environment, right? Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
One shouldn't be accusatory. What we need basically is empirical evidence that substantiate direction of travel, which is, you know what? We're trying to make the right progress. We're putting measures in place. We are being transparent. We're going to engage with you. And we want you to come along for the journey and be objective in how you view what we do. Don't just be parochial and think it's all negative. Come along for the journey, and we're going to make sure that we're going to show that we value your perspective, we value your opinion, we value your input in this process. And let's see what transpires, what happens.
Yeah.
You know, we are negative because we don't see anything positive.
Most people are negative because they don't see any success.
Yes.
That's bottom line.
That's
the most people are.
Yes.
Right? They see a man. They see a man driving around in a luxury car and thing, and another man driving around in a Corolla, and guess what? They assume that the man with the luxury car is the one with the money.
Yes. but I would say this though. We don't have no luxury car in that football program. So we don't have no luxury car. The car in that football program on Jalopy. The whole Zephyr, and we have to upgrade the car. We have to upgrade the car. We have to upgrade the car. But look, here's the thing. Here's my last point, which is we appreciate you coming on. This is a start, I hope, of a beautiful relationship. I'm actually serious. I'm not man. And it's fan base. All the fan want is transparency. All the fan want is engagement and association, and to show hiring a coach who is not Jamaican, even though I hate that, is positive. You know what? Because that conflict, that self-interest, almost get negated by that hiring.
No, I don't put it that way. Hiring a coach who has the results and has shown us.
No, but I wasn't finished, Dennis. I wasn't finished, Dennis. Yeah. There's the first thing about, even if he had the results, well, Whitmore had the results. Look at his record. Whitmore had the results, but this coach a lot of different things. Great communicator, has done well in multiple environments, is not conflicted just by where he comes from. His persuasion doesn't matter to me, because if he was African, it'd be the same thing, which is been there, tried and tested, came in first day, his press conference, you walk away saying, you know what? Anyone that articulate, eloquent, or verbose must have a brain, and then let's see how it gets executed on the field.
Yeah, man. So, Mannings, man, I have to go run now because it has been a while. It's just one thing I ask. I see a comment from Albala. Who you refer to as TikTok?
I know. It's some commenter he's always defending the GFF. I think he's the man called the man now. He changed his name. So I think that is the person.
That's TikTok.
We thought he was a board member. We think he's a board member.
Yeah, they think he's a board member. But listen, thank you for coming on. I know we'll have more opportunities to talk.
Yeah, man, no problem.
The next thing they want to talk to you about is the player relationship, because they felt like the relationship with the previous Gen Sec, if you take on the position, how will your relation be with the players? Because they are major stakeholders in all of this. But we'll pick that up at the next time. All the best. And I mean, we really hope you really take this position. So, you know, we are 100% behind you as the fan base taking on this. We think we need minds like yours and persons of, I don't want to say person of integrity, meaning I'm not saying that the other persons did not, but just seeing your track record and the changes you have made wherever you have gone, even in cycling. You understand me? I have been at the games and I have been upset and left, and you sat, right? And you kept quiet. You don't try to coach like me. So I see your demeanor.
So you are the reason why we never make it, because you're coaching.
But we are 100% behind you in terms of support, and we're all here, Neo, Sovereign, all of us, all the vloggers. Anything we need to do, I'm willing to be a part of the process of change for the betterment of the football, and still remain objective and honest in my dialogue at all times.
Yeah, man. All right, respect, guys.
All right, respect.
Thanks a lot. All right, peace.
Yeah. All right, so people, there you have it. I don't know, Neo, Kronke, anything you guys want to say in closing, and then we will wrap up.
Neo, you can go first. I'll say a couple of words.
Yeah, man. I think it was a good interview. I think, I think that Mr. Chung did well, answered the questions, seems forthright. I didn't find him to be, evasive. I think it was a good faith attempt to answer questions and to make himself available to the fans. What I will say is that, there are definitely issues which I've spoken of, you spoken of, Kronke spoken of. Let us not forget and none of us are going to forget all of the things that have happened. And certainly Mr. Chung, our JFF, and I know that he makes reference to the president. None of us will soon forget a lot of the things that have happened. Yet, for the sake of football, if they're making the changes and the changes look meaningful, I will support that. But again, I hear you talk about maintaining that relationship management. And none of us can be thought of as authentic if somebody come on and say some nice things and we forget about the issues that are there. The only way to move on and to be effective is to acknowledge those issues and deal with them specifically. So I will definitely take the opportunity to send the proposed bylaws to him, and if we have any dialogue, to continue that dialogue. But again, thanks for inviting me, Mannings, man. I thought it was a good interview.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Neo. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, man. And it's fall back, so we're on the same time. Fall starts today, so we're on the same time, right?
I stand to be corrected, but it's my understanding that they have done away with that now. That the clock don't go back again. It's just right. We are always going to be 1 hour ahead. I don't know if people in the chat know. I think that the Congress passed some rule now where they eliminated daylight savings time and we're just on standard Eastern time or whatever the time is. Is that true, Frank?
Right across the United States?
I don't know when it kicks in. The decision was made. I'm not sure when it kicks in. Is it kicking this year? It probably kicks in this year, probably.
Yeah, because the time zones are still different. So there are definitely differences. But once upon a time, we would either a certain time at the fall, we would set the clock back, and then when it goes to spring or whatever, we put the clock forward. But as far as I know, while the differences remain in terms of the time zones, the setting the clock forward and backward has been eliminated. So I don't know. That's for another show.
Yes, all right.
No, it's saying that we have it for 22. I know they were putting laws. I'm not sure it's effective yet, but it may not be effective yet.
Okay. Yeah, man. All right, Kronke.
So a couple of things. One, look, we got to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
When they fail, we hold them accountable. And not just failure, if they're putting measures in place to enable them to be successful, then we have to be catalysts and also involved in helping to enable that success to occur, right? We can't just be critics and try to contravene what they're trying to accomplish. We have to help maybe we can, but we do want to see changes to enable that to occur. What I didn't hear, what I wanted to hear, was changing people, I must admit. Because you have the same people doing the same thing, don't get the same result. You can't teach, personnel to change their ability to be deductive or be strategic. It just doesn't happen. Not when they're seasoned. I'm going to use. I'm not going to use the word old. But I am hopeful that, and Dennis seemed like a very informed person, and also a person just like Speed, who's receptive to be challenged and to challenge. Also a person who seems like he wants to give back. So hopefully, if he assumes the role of GenSec, we'll get better outcome. The JFF has started with hiring of a new coach, and a coach with a good resume, and a coach who seemed to be very informed about what it takes to be successful. So hopefully they don't do something which is going to affect his ability to be successful. So you know how that works. You come in with the best of intentions, and you just can't work with the administration because the structure, how they operate, how they do business, doesn't conform to how you want to operate, what you think success entails success. So hopefully that occurs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Professor said, correct if I hear say those persons will be voted on next election.
Well, I mean, look, I know the most important thing that allows you to be successful are people. People don't understand, it's not just your product or marketing or your SEO, the right people in the right seat with the right perspective, the right knowledge, the right expertise can enable you to be successful if you don't have the best product. As you can see with some football team, for example. If you don't have that, if the head doesn't work, management, it's hard to achieve the success or maximize your potential. So my hope is that will occur. But that may not occur. So you know what? Next step is, what we have, we work with. Maybe people like him can influence, have more of a say than others, and move the program forward. But look, I think the JFF has realized that YouTubers are not going away. Which is a good. If you can't beat them, join them. Yeah. So it's a good thing to see where they say, you know what? Because management would be here for 4 hours. You know, Sportsmax spent 10 minutes, man spent 4 hours talking about the same thing over and over again. That's hard to run away from. And as he said, when he learned of this company, 70% of his people or customers are on social media, right? They use on social media, not traditional media. So the best thing for them to do going forward is to garner ideas, man, from all their constituents to help them move forward. And my hope is that they'll embrace that.
Yeah. And listen, I always believe that where experience don't meet expectation, fill the gap with trust. Same thing like I said, Kronke.
Well, I mean, I trust somebody, I'm verified.
Well, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. The new coach, new Gensec, and he did say that he's talking about there are 2 other persons that he mentioned, one from hardware and lumber, one from Jamaica National, that have come into the finance area that are volunteering their time. He did say that. He did say they are negotiating building a website, which many of us have been talking about. So you're hearing these things, and you know we continue to believe that the change will continue to happen. Right, we see the thing happening on the coaching side as well, where we hear it announced that the senior assistant coach will be the national under-20 coach. We're hearing, there are some good things happening. He said that there's a marketing plan that is being rolled out for the women-friendly game. So let's see. Like I said, we are not going away, but we also, I think, one of the things that I want us to all remember, and it must take place in these spaces, we have to learn to respect each other. We have to, in other words, let us criticize, let us disagree, but in a respectful way. And the more we do that in these spaces, is the greater credibility like the space will get. If the people we want to talk to feel like we are disrespectful, then they're not going to come. And then we're going to be without information and operate on speculation. So we have to create this space being critical but respectful. And as long as we do that, yeah. But again, thanks to every single one for joining, being a part of it. Yes, one done admitting that man was right when I said CVM, the only station bringing the World Cup. There we go. In Jamaica, and they will be beginning in a month or so. The Premier League will be live on CVM and on their platform. So
is it free? Is it free?
Yes, it's free.
So how do they make money? Through advertising?
Well, you can watch it on CVM free, but the ads, and then they will also have it on the app that you have to get.
It was on the free over the here TV. Is not free.
Yeah.
But how are they making money? That's the question I'm asking.
But advertising.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, by the advertising. But thanks to you guys for coming on. Listen, thanks to everyone who has come on. We have a next major interview coming this week. I'll let you know more about it. We also started a new thing. We have I Am Sure Sports Caribbean. That channel. So go and subscribe to it, because on that platform, all the people you saw, we have Andre Fortune from Trinidad and Tobago out in South Carolina. He's going to be on that, and on that channel he's going to be doing listen, people don't realize what we have done. A lot of these other islands have watched our platform, and they think they need to start creating the kind of dialogue that has been had, because it will bring change in their island. And so we are helping him to do that, so he can bring on a lot of things about football in Trinidad and other spaces in the Caribbean. So you can subscribe to it and check it out. But it's
so you guys do have a little bit of influence.
A little bit. So Neo, please remember to send those information. People. So I just tell CVM what they're asking me about TVJ. Just look at us now. That's what it says. Big up, Kyle. Big up to everyone. Claudine, a lot of respect, a lot of love, right? She's a female. KW Media, Manny's told you about Waterford and playing on good playing surfaces. How did Kingston College match go? How did Waterford and Kingston College go? Did Kingston College win? Big up man called Bird. in the building. What? Waterford defeated. Kingston College won 8-0. Wow.
Why are you asking a rhetorical question, Mannings, man? Why are you asking a rhetorical question?
All right. KW Media. When you hear me ask the score, right, it is not for you to put it in there.
You gotta say how much did KC win? That's the question. You asked the wrong question.
All right, so let me give you the code, KW Media. When Kronke is on the show and we ask about KC, it's so that everybody know, do not talk the score. That is the plan. That is the code, right?
The JFF needs to be as successful as KC. Then we all be happy.
Yeah, man, but have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the night, everyone. Join us again tomorrow when we'll be doing our World Cup show in late morning, afternoon, and we'll be in Group E, I believe. Thank you so much, Neil. Kronke, thank you. I mean, both of you are off today because it was a public holiday, right?
No, I wasn't off. I don't get those days off.
I was off.
I was not off. No.
Was it a holiday?
I ran home to do your program.
Yes, it's a holiday formerly known as a Columbus Day, that's all?
Yes.
Yeah. Formerly known
as a holiday for everyone, Mannings, man.
Oh, it's not a holiday for everyone? I didn't know that.
No, I have to tell you, I work for the government now, so I embrace these holidays. I never used to always get them, but now that I get them, I celebrate them.
No, I don't get Columbus Day.
Okay. All right, people. Listen. So bless up. Have a good evening. I am Mannings Man. This has been I Am Sure Sports. And as usual, when we get to this point, we say that we are over and we are OUT. We are out of here.
Boom, check it out. I don't know it's Jason. I may represent for I Am Sure Sports. For the latest news and updates, check out I Am Sure Sports. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel, subscribe and share. JS representing I Am Sure. I Am Sure Sports.